The Battle of Iwo Jima. Japan, 1945. The island of Iwo Jima is being held by Japanese forces. It's the latter part of the war, and the United States has been pushing through the Pacific, heading towards the island of Japan. The Americans had just taken the Marshall Islands, and the Isle of Iwo Jima was the next step in the plan to attack the Japanese homeland. The Americans arrived by the boatload onto the island of Iwo Jima. It was 6 a.m. I was on one of the landing boats down at Iwo Jima. The mist was heavy that day. We landed on the beach, and our combat boots weren't acquired to the sand at Iwo Jima. Shortly after arriving on the beaches at Iwo Jima, the American soldiers were confronted with little to no Japanese resistance. Although there was no immediate resistance, the Japanese put up a strong defense through a system of underground caves and tunnels.
Once we got on the island, we had to go up that hill, and then the Japs came out of those holes, and there was Japs everywhere. It was scary.
In addition to a strong land invasion, the Americans also bombed Iwo Jima relentlessly through their fleet of ships off the coast.
In the Battle of Iwo Jima, my position was to work with the artillery shells and make sure they hit the target. Our higher-ups and our commanders told us that we would bombard them with missiles and bombs, but we didn't know what we were going to be expecting.
After the Americans finished off the little Japanese resistance that was on land, they quickly figured out that it would be very difficult to flush out the Japanese from their underground caves and bunkers. One of the few ways the Americans could flush out the Japanese from their holes was a fairly new weapon, the flamethrower.
Now, since the Japanese were underground, we were tasked with burning them out, you could say. I was one of the flamethrower guys. Now, I got so obsessed with my flamethrower, I actually burned my retinas right now. But that's not important. What is important was how fun it was just to burn them out of those holes. They just came running out screaming. Oh, it was crazy. Those were the days.
With the flamethrower on their side, the Americans finally had a weapon they could use against the Japanese in their underground bunkers. Not only did the Japanese attack from their bunkers, they also pulled soldiers down and tortured them mercilessly for days.
I was in a squad of 15 men. My sergeant, who drove, he yelled as loud as he could, "It's Jap hunting time!" And we just kept marching. One of my men behind me screamed. He disappeared. I walked a couple more steps and they grabbed me.
One of our men got captured. I saw him get pulled down in a hole. He got grabbed by the ankles and I could see that Jap's face as he pulled him down. I gathered all our men and I said, we gotta go get Raja Patel, 'cause he was one of our best men. We went into that hole where they were, and we saw him being tortured. And then I just killed all the Japs in there.
I was down there for 4 weeks. Every day they tortured me. They poked my eye with a hot prod. I haven't slept good since.
The number of tortures decreased as the war went on, as the Americans had begun clearing out all the underground caves and bunkers with flamethrowers.
So one day, me and my squad were coming back from patrol, and as we're walking back to the beach, I saw some Japs running. from some other soldiers. I said, I'll take care of it. So they ran, and the Japs ran into the cave, and I ran in after them, and I heard my squad leader yell at me not to go in there, but of course, I like to burn stuff a lot. So I ran in there too. And I burned the living daylights out of them. And I burned so much that the heat was so overwhelming, my eyes dried out in an instant. Now I came out of the cave, I could barely breathe, and I couldn't see. But my squad leader said I was still burning my flamethrower, screaming.
With the war winding down, the Americans continued to bomb Iwo Jima mercilessly from the safety of their ships.
We were on the boat shooting artillery at the island, and then out of nowhere a missile hit us. We had to jump out of the ship, and then luckily a patrol boat picked us up.
As the Battle of Iwo Jima came to a close, 6 American soldiers ascended Mount Suribachi to plant a flag which would eventually signify American victory. After emerging from a system of caves that the Japanese had built, I was looking around for the rest of my squadron. And what I saw, it almost brought me to tears. 6 American soldiers raising the flag on a hill in Iwo Jima. The raising of the flag on top of Mount Suribachi is seen as a symbol for patriotism for many Americans. After the Americans took Mount Suribachi, along with most of southern Iwo Jima, all that laid in their path was northern Iwo Jima, which was quickly taken by the American forces. In conclusion, the Battle of Iwo Jima was an American victory on a volcanic island outside the Japanese homeland. The Japanese suffered 95% casualties, and the Americans took Iwo Jima as a new fueling depot for their fleet of planes. Thank you for watching the History Channel's report on the Battle of Iwo Jima.